Well, after this couple of minutes of courtesy, let's start. Good morning, everyone. My name is Claudia Trias. I am the Wellness Product Manager at the Costa Brava Tourism Board. Well, as the Tourism Board, we are the institution in charge of the structure and to promote Costa Brava and Girona Pyramids, which is actually the Girona province. And well, specifically me, I'm in charge of the wellness products. So we are the clusterization of well-being and wellness experiences and companies dedicated to that. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you at this new webinar series, New Cases on the Tourism Heritage, an event which has been organized by the Tourism and Cultural and Natural Sector Hubs at the University of Girona, and this time in collaboration of Costa Brava Girona Tourism Board. Well, just to remind you, the main goal of this series today is dedicated to heritage tourism through well-being practices and spiritual sides. Is to introduce pioneering initiatives that highlight new approaches and directions emerging around these two topics in constant transformation. By celebrating these encounters, the university aims to connect different actors of the territory to make sure the research and institutions work all together through the common goals. As some of you may know already, each month, this session is dedicated to these specific topics. Today, focusing on the relationship between well-being, tourism, and cultural and natural heritage. Dr. Sílvia Aulet, tourism professor at University of Girona, will briefly introduce the purpose of organizing an event combining pilgrims, cultural heritage, and mindfulness. Please, Sílvia, it's over you now.
Thank you, Claudia. Good morning. First, I would like to thank the Tourism Campus and the Heritage Campus of the University of Girona for giving us this space to discuss and reflect on the links between heritage, well-being, and tourism. I want also to thank the speakers for being with us today. And finally, I want to thank all the people that is joining us online for this session. I will take a few minutes to introduce this webinar that aims at exploring the connections between well-being, heritage, and tourism. This topic has been explored by some researchers of my faculty, the Faculty of Tourism of the University of Girona, and was also discussed in several conferences and seminars, for example, the seminars of our World Heritage Initiative. This is a bottom-up initiative that aims at raising general awareness about the opportunities and threats that natural and cultural World Heritage sites encounter today, mainly precipitated by increasing development pressures, industrial operations, climate change, or unsustainable tourism practices. 2022 will be the 40th anniversary of the World Heritage Convention promoted by UNESCO. So in 2021, our World Heritage Initiative is promoting several reflections on the role that heritage and the convention should play in the 21st century. The World Heritage Convention needs to adapt to a multidimensional and multicultural world by protecting heritage that reflects the diversity of societies. Each month is devoted to discussing a specific topic, and at the end, some recommendations and policy guidelines will be delivered to UNESCO. February was the month of tourism, and discussions were coordinated by Maria Gravari Barbas and Minja Yang, and the UNESCO unit with Network Culture, Tourism and Development was supporting some of the events. And in one of these events, this connection between heritage, health, and tourism was presented. And at this point, the University of Girona also decided to join to this reflection and discussions. So the emergence of a global pandemic caused by COVID-19 has led us to question many issues related to health, but also to our lifestyle. The World Health Organization defines health as a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of diseases or illnesses. In 2013, spiritual health was recognized as a fourth dimension of health, together with physical, emotional, and social. So according to some health academics, we are entering a new phase that requires a more holistic approach based on inclusive narratives, the promotion of social trust, and the need of having meaningful life. Well-being is also a holistic concept that encompasses emotional, social, cultural, spiritual, and economic needs, which allow individuals to realize their full potential and engage in society to their fullest capacity. So, well-being and health are fundamental for the achievement of peace and social justice. And remember that this is one of the Sustainable Development Goals promoted by the United Nations. One of the elements that we often forget is the need to take a holistic view of reality. This holistic approach is not only considered in health. Several philosophers have also reflected on this previously. The world cannot be understood without understanding the concept of interdependence. The world has become small, but humankind has not grown big. For example, philosophers like Panikkar and Piaget, some of the great philosophers that we have today, also defend this concept, saying that there is nothing completely separate and that dualities do not exist. So how to connect heritage and well-being? So this is the approach. According to ICROM, the International Center for Study of the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property, cultural heritage is fundamental determinants of what makes life meaningful. When culture is reduced to a recreational pastime, when we fail to recognize heritage as a way of life that links both livelihood and identity, opportunities to enhance meaning and value in our lives are lost. To address this oversight, the impact of culture on sustainable development and well-being needs to be more clearly articulated. Also, for example, the Association Europa Nostra refers to the healing power of heritage. Cultural heritage plays an essential role in the physical and mental well-being of every individual and in the society as a whole. Therefore, investing in cultural heritage means investing in public health, in well-being, and providing quality to people's life. Here, the approach is linked to mainly cultural heritage, but also natural heritage is important and plays an important role in achieving this state of well-being. Authors like Berger or Toll, to mention some, believe that the actual situation of pollution and climate change is the result of a deep spiritual crisis in human beings. Also, Pope Francis, in his encyclical Laudato Si, refers to the emergency of taking care of our common home, that is the earth. So nature is not seen anymore as a resource, but as essential for human life. The rupture of ecological balances accelerated by current development models gives rise to activities whose sole purpose is to reconnect with nature and the search for an inner harmony of human beings with it. Nature and the environment offer the sense of inner peace and tranquility that would explain also the increasing number of people, including young people, engaging in pilgrimage routes such as the Ignatian Way, for example. But also new pilgrimage routes are emerging based on ecofeminism approach, new age movements that have in common this deep relation with nature. Josep Maria Mallarac, for example, refers also to spiritual values of nature, and he was one of the promoters of the Delos initiative that aims to preserve and promote the spiritual values of nature. So we can see that heritage, both natural and cultural, have different values, like the historical value that connects with the past and give us this sense of continuity, symbolic values that add meaning to communities' identities, spiritual values, aesthetic values related, for example, to beauty. And here, remember, for example, Dostoevsky's words, beauty will save the world, or, for example, social values. All these values are important in achieving this meaningful life that is key for well-being. Even sometimes tourism is seen as a superficial activity that may offer moments of disconnection. Tourism can offer and should offer moments of connection as well, promoting this quest for spirituality, the inner peace and well-being. So the examples that we are going to see today connect these concepts of heritage well-being through these tourism practices. Tourism in heritage sites, both natural and cultural, should be considered as a source of well-being through different respectful practices like retirements, pilgrimage, meditation, among others. In the actual situation of restrictions and limitations, can we consider tourism connected to well-being practices as an essential activity? Essential means that it refers to the essence, to the main characteristics of something or someone. We could mention, for example, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's words, "The essential is invisible to the eye." So connecting this idea of essential to something precious and valuable, like, for example, our time or our leisure time. Then, could we consider these activities as an essential service for the improvement of health and well-being? And if so, how could we use the healing power of heritage to improve not only visitors' experience, but also visitors' health? And finally, in line with this discussion, even if we consider tourism essential for the mental and social health of people, then we should promote healthier ways of travel. So I would like to invite you all to reflect on these concepts, and I wish you enjoy the presentations and the discussions. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sylvia. I'm sure we will find out the answer today of the questions you brought. And I'm sure that there is a direct connection between well-being and tourism as well. Well, just before we start the webinar with the panelists, let me remind you about some technical aspects that you should have in mind. As you all know, the session is being recorded. This will facilitate the access to its content to those who couldn't have attended today. In addition, the session will be posted on the Tourism and Heritage Hub on the YouTube channel. We will also ask you to post your questions on the question and answer section. Once all the panelists have presented, the questions will be transferred to the corresponding panelists so that the debate can get started. Okay, at the very end of the webinar, and to offer a better interaction, if you wish, your camera can be activated and your microphone turned off. So in case you want to intervene, you will be free to do so. And last but not least, if you wish to promote this event on social media, the hashtag we use is hashtag Novas Miradas Turismo Patrimoni. Post on the screen. You should see it on your screens. So let me introduce you, Mr. Josep Lluís Iriberri. He's licensed in biology by the University of Barcelona and in theology by University of Leuven in Belgium. He holds a master in counseling by the University Ramon Llull in Barcelona, where he also teaches at the Faculty of Tourism Sant Ignasi, HTSI. He's the member of the Society of Jesus since 1981 and priest since 1992. He also received a Jesuit formation in Belfast and is a certified as an Itinerant teacher. In 2018, he founded the Ignatian Way Pilgrimage and became the first director of the Ignatian Way Pilgrimage Office, where he has been developing his vocation as a Jesuit accompanying groups by pilgrims in the way. He has been promoting the way internationally through its main publication, conferences delivered worldwide. He's an expert guide in pilgrimage, and holds a deep knowledge in spiritual exercises. So please, Josep Lluís, whenever you're ready, you can go on.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm impressed by the first presentation from Dr. Aulet, so I don't know if I'm going to say anything interesting after her explanation, but well, thank you very much for inviting me to be here today, and I'm truly honored to be considered one of the speakers of this webinar. So let's talk about my experience on the Ignatian Way in Spain and the connection between being a pilgrim and what we call this human well-being or wellness. The statistics from the UN show the evolution of the tourism around the globe. I believe that the huge increase in tourism in the world from the past century is one result of our continual desire for new experiences and what we perceive as a different form of life and a break from everyday routines, looking for something new, exciting, and out of the ordinary, which stimulates our curiosity in different ways. We humans, we are eager to find that place in which time seems to be flexible, where life has another rhythm, and the clock just melts itself like in the Salvador Dali picture. Our feeling when we look into our lives is that something is missing. That's why we look for experiences. The term experiences is a clear example of a concept that has become something important in tourism in our modern society. Travel and visiting other places has always been basically a matter of creating an experience. Jan Hochland, a sociologist, says that people who daily find themselves in a hectic, overstimulated situation seek tourist journeys which offer relaxation and rest, which the understimulated seek a contrast to their monotony through activity and excitement. In this way, the tourist journey becomes a form of regulator, which compensates for the limitations of everyday life. So, our need to travel is a function of the fact that we continually yearn for something that we don't have access to here and now. We seek new places, which are both geographically and mentally different from us, with the aim of attaining physical, emotional, and mental well-being. As we live in an increasingly non-spiritual and machine-technified world, the demand during our leisure and holiday journeys for a mental and emotional purification is going up. But even if the religious factors are diminishing in importance, we see the importance of experiencing together a surrounding that creates harmony and satisfaction within us. In our continual search for somewhere other, we are all, in one sense, involved in a never-ending journey, even if this journey may take many different forms of expression. Increasingly, we search for adventure and variation in different cultures far from our home. In my next book, not yet released, I take the example of the movie Eat, Pray, and Love that I'm sure you watched in 2010, in which the main character runs away from home and starts a secular pilgrimage in different countries. If we maintain a fairly open definition, we might say that the secular pilgrim, in some sense, is related to our backpackers, or perhaps we can even say that the pilgrim way of life is the basis of all the expressions that have given rise to tourism today. Many people feel a great need to have an opportunity in their leisure time for a form of recreation which focuses on body, heart, and mental purification, and the yearning for experiences that are on the opposite side to everyday life. This reasoning is supported by Graborn, who sees tourism as some kind of holy journey, where the tourist runs away from everyday life. Thus, we can see tourism as a kind of sacred journey, where the sacredness is not strictly religious in character, but rather the expression of an escape from our everyday environment to an extraordinary space, a personal sacred place full of enhancing experiences. Many places in the world offer this secular sacred tourism, like the European concentration camps or Senegalese Gore Island, or the full moon of Koh Phangan in Thailand, visit Egypt or Mexico, seeking the encounter with ancient cultures. Another example of what might be named as another form of secular pilgrim's destination is Graceland, Elvis Presley's home. The common denominator in this time of secular sacred tourist destination is that the individual is assumed to have a total experience, satisfying all their senses and feelings, as well as their philosophy of life. Okay, after this very short introduction to pilgrimages, let's go to the Ignatian Way. Someone can think that perhaps this is not the right moment to start a new way or a new road for pilgrims. It is true that nowadays the phenomenon of pilgrim tourism is characterized by an increasingly secularization of the society. But we have to say that at the same time, a growing number of people is searching for spiritual experiences. In the 20th century, the number of religious pilgrims going to traditional places of worship all around the globe has been increasing steadily, and new places were opened to the worship of the faithful. Studies show that close to 2,500 new apparitions of Our Lady were seen only in the last century, although only 7 were recognized by the Catholic Church, like the apparition of Our Lady of Sorrows of Chandavila in 1945 in Badajoz, Spain. As I said, people is very open to the spiritual experience and eager to find new ways to discover new religions, and more than that, eager to discover one meaning in themselves for their lives. Following this blow of wind, the Society of Jesus, so the Jesuits, decided in 2010 to start a new pilgrimage for our 21st century. So what kind of tourist attraction is the Ignatian Way? As you know, Nolan and Nolan divide the tourist attractions related to religion into three partly overlapping categories. Places where the shrine is a goal for religiously motivated distant journeys for visitors. Religious attraction in the sense that the place has a religious significance and an historical and/or artistic importance, and festivals with religious connotations. Using these three categories, we can say that from a global point of view, the Ignatian Way fits in the second one because it has a proper religious attraction based on the life of St. Ignatius, as well as its historical and cultural importance, mostly related to the shrines, history, and the Baroque and Romanesque art. Further on, Camino Ignaciano to some extent fits as well into Nolan's and Nolan's category of festivals with religious backgrounds, since certain years are designated as holy years, and in connection with these holy years, a number of activities take place in Loyola and mostly in Manresa, which attract an even greater stream of pilgrims and tourists. On the pictures, you can see the bishop is not behind bars, but opening the holy door to celebrate the Ignatian Way Jubilar Year 2015. One pilgrim just crossing the door to attain the Jubilee after his pilgrimage, and finally the shrine of St. Ignatius in Manresa, full of people, including pilgrims, tourists, and faithful from the city. As I have already said, the primary reasons for undertaking a pilgrimage are to find peace and harmony after the often stressful everyday existence that many people lead. Like pilgrimages in the past, today's sacred journeys are an expression of people's desire to achieve a satisfaction that goes beyond material values, where the inner pilgrimage is primary, but an inner pilgrimage which finds expression in the form of an outer one. The pilgrimage may thus be said to be part of the search by the individual for a better future. As this testimony, Donna says, I felt the changes in my life were creating chaos in my soul. I needed to break from my everyday routine. So the idea was to follow the way, walking this path, stopping at churches, castles, or sitting on a stone on the top of the mountain. I began to feel the chaotic energy in me find a positive focus. So that's to find the glue that holds me together. Pilgrims seek a holistic experience where many different influential factors interact to make them feel content and give them satisfaction. Their journey is across their life, putting together the whole person, mind, body, and heart. The experience of Ignatius teaches them to discern their inner emotions and so take the better decisions. As you can see, Annie, another testimony says, the journey through Spain included the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. All parts will need to come together to find the space for discernment. So she learned to go and let life happen along the Ignatian Way. Don't fight with yourself. The pilgrim tourist journey begins with the need to travel somewhere. This need is grounded in the fact that there is something that attracts and thus encourages us to transport ourselves to a specific place. In our case, this attraction is rooted in the story of St. Ignatius of Loyola, or perhaps I should say, the story of one young man like us that changed his life radically in 1522. For the Ignatian pilgrim, this is the first call to know that man and his extraordinary life. Secondly is the call to visit the heritage shown in many historical sites. And then we find all the motivations that are the same in all the modern pilgrimages. The Ignatian pilgrims truly seek a certain given feeling and the identity that the visit of their heritage creates for them, linked to the presence of Ignatius, like visiting the Holy House or Mother House of Ignacio of Loyola, or staying at the Ignatius Posada in Navarrete, the former palace of the Duke of Nájera, in which he lived for 3 years. Visiting and passing through the same places that Ignatius passed, we allow these sacred places to speak to us. That was the testimony from Alex. We know that in the church statistics from the St. James Way, the strictly religious motivation does not very often reach 50%. In other surveys, the spirituality more than religion is indicated as the most valued element. At the same time, other motives such as sports or ecological inspiration are not uncommon, up to a point where the religious motivation becomes nowadays secondary on the St. James Way. As you can see on the St. James Way survey, they take only 3 options: strictly religious, strictly cultural, or both. On the Ignatian Way, as a brand new pilgrimage and not really promoted outside of the Ignatian circles, we can see that the motivations are grounded on the spiritual and religious side, going up to a 74% when we add both of them. This is the main motivation now, but probably it will go a bit down when the number of pilgrims will increase and their profile will change, including many non-Ignatian pilgrims. If spiritual and religious motivation is the biggest option on the Ignatian Way, what do the pilgrims find at the end of their pilgrimage? Here you can see the conclusions of one survey about the values that pilgrims find on the Ignatian Way. Companionship, solidarity, the biggest one, interior knowledge. Then we have to appreciate the small things. So these kind of values that show the growth and the spiritual growth that the pilgrims experience along the way. Let's have a look to this testimony of Mary, another pilgrim. The physical aspects of the Camino are important, but the deeper and more lasting experiences are those of a spiritual significance. A growing awareness of what it means to be a pilgrim in life, to be attentive to those God moments, trust in God, to find new places and meet new people, and finally, the team, the group of pilgrims, we who began as strangers became companions. The wellness experienced along the way is because the inner and the outer way come together. And as a result, the pilgrims open his or her being to God and to the others. In order to reach that unity of both ways, inner and outer way, we follow the experience of St. Ignatius of Loyola all along the way. These 2 books are at the very foundation of the Ignatian Way, and they both lead the pilgrimage along the 700 kilometers of long walk. Of course, these books are translated in many languages, so the pilgrims can read them before his or her arrival to Spain, and in a certain way, be ready for the experience with this kind of preparation. So we think that spirituality is today actually more important than religious reasons for a pilgrimage. The Ignatian Way has a bigger potential than others because it is truly rooted in that spiritual experience coming from St. Ignatius. As Gian says, to follow St. Ignatius' steps from the exit of Loyola to his confession in Montserrat and in his new pilgrim life at Manresa, St. Ignatius is an example to follow. And I can understand him when I look back at my life. So similar in a very different world. So the pilgrimage along the Ignatian Way may play a significant role in the well-being and mental emotional recuperation of the individual, even though, of course, the religious backgrounds of Ignatius, his deep Catholic faith, is modeling the pilgrimage in one special way that perhaps can be a hindrance for some pilgrims. Nonetheless, as it has been already tested over the centuries, the Ignatian spirituality is somehow open enough to be experienced by many different kinds of cultures and spiritualities in every continent. So we think that anyone can walk this way without this distinction. Wellness following the spiritual path, another experience of this link between the spiritual experience of the pilgrim and the guidance from St. Ignatius. Says David, the great joy for me about this Camino was that it was patterned on the spiritual exercises written by Ignatius. All of it was an opportunity to compare my life with the life of Jesus and to ask myself, given what God the Lord has done for me, what can I do for him? That's the kind of experience that the pilgrims find. In order to help to grow the spiritual experience for the pilgrims, 6 different shrines along the way open their doors to the Ignatian pilgrims. In some of them, lately, they have been doing some renovations, hoping that the number of pilgrims will increase and so the future of the heritage will be preserved. But of course, the purpose of the Jesuits here in the shrine of St. Ignatius, you can see the transformation, is not just economic, but spiritual. The whole display of the New and Old Testament scenes made by the Rupnik workshop from Rome should bring to a major spiritual experience for all the visitors, mostly the pilgrims that have walked for a long month following Ignatius and reaches this place of God's presence offered on the contemplation of the beautiful mosaics. So, going to the end of my presentation, we are a new pilgrimage, we are just starting. The question is how to improve the number of pilgrims. And we have to look at the successful example of the St. James Way. There have been many events that have stimulated the fast growth of tourist visits to Santiago de Compostela, including the various visits by John Paul II, the Pope. But the most important factor was the action of the Galician tourist policy, getting ready for the Holy Year of 1993. The regional administration started a process for the revival and protection of the traditional routes with the construction of free hostels and a powerful publicity campaign. We, the Pilgrims Office of the Ignatian Way, we try very hard for the past years to bring together all the public administrations. And I must say that we have succeeded, at least partially, with a recent signed agreement that could bring some kind of future coordination of actions to promote and develop the Ignatian Way. This is basic. We need to put together all the actors and work in the same direction. But in our case, this is not just the only way to increase the number of pilgrims. We would like to count with the big Ignatian family. In the Ignatian Way, after 8 years from the opening, we can count more than 2,500 pilgrims registered at the tourist office in Manresa. It is not that many, but we think that we are starting something that can be really big. Why so? What are our expectancies? As you can see in the picture, in our case, we can count with the big Ignatian family spread all around the globe. If we think only a sample 1% of them coming every year, this will be already a problem to many places along the Ignatian Way. And so we try to promote the Ignatian Way as much as we can, as our public is widespread in the world from the beginning. We have tried to publish as much as possible in different languages. As you can see here, we have English, French, Italian, German, but there is as well some books published in Polish and in Korean. So this is our way to spread the word and show that the Ignatian Way is not only a possibility, but a reality in our time. Well, thank you very much for your attention. I try to stay in my 20 minutes. I think it's a little bit longer, but okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Josep Lluís, for sharing this presentation with us. Very interesting, getting to know a little more about the San Ignatian Way. Thank you so much once again. Let's move now with our next presentation. In this case, it will be Edgar Tarrés' turn. Edgar Tarrés, mindful hacker, professor also at the University of Girona and collaborator at the Universities of Vigo, Rovira Virgili, CETT Corporate, and Beira Interior in Portugal. Also co-founder of the Institute of Silence, mindful travel consultant, and designer of well-being experiences for organizations through tourism projects, etc., etc. He is also the director of the post-graduation of wellness tourism at the Fundació UDG, University of Girona Foundation. So Edgar, whenever you're ready, please, it's your turn. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. And of course, thank you, everybody, this amazing team who has organized this great event, everybody being here, and of course, also the László Puczkó and Josep Lluís Iriberri. Let me first, please, share my presentation. Okay, yes, here we are. Okay, so, well, good morning, Jona Poggibanok, and bon dia to everybody who has come here to, well, to share this time together about well-being, spirituality, heritage, sites, tourism, well, lots of concepts which are very, very interesting to mix together so we can, I don't know, innovate, create new things. And for me, when I talk of tourism, but in fact, when I talk of everything, I like to keep in mind that in fact, we are talking about, you know, the happiness of people. Sometimes people start, you know, projects, start, I don't know, whatever, and only focus in what they are doing. But for me, which I'm really interested in promoting activities which can be very useful to make this world, you know, a more beautiful place. I think that we need to keep in mind that whatever we do, we must always think, you know, of the happiness of people. And of course, when talking of tourism, I like to think of the words of Josep Trias that tourism, you know, is the business of happiness. Because when people, you know, they go on their vacation holidays, they really want that at least this time, you know, everything goes perfect, you know. And of course, tourism, you know, it has, you know, such characteristics, you know, it helps people to get out of their reality, you know, they can, you know, get out of hamster wheel that most of times we are in it. People have time, you know, for themselves, and it's interesting, you know, because you have free time in order to find your coherence, you know, with body, mind, and soul, and for that, well, I will go to that later about wellness and well-being, but when seeing tourism in this way. I love to talk, you know, of well-being or even, you know, a mindful travel experience in a way that the people, destinations, and organizations, they can change. For me, mindful travel is the transformation, you know, of people, destinations, and of organizations. And I say people, no tourists, because, and at least I could see that in my experiences that in this kind of tourism, people, you know, locals and also visitors, they gather together to perform an experience. And this is amazing because what people want really is to feel well, to be okay, to feel better, to live better every day. So for me, it's not strange that when I propose an activity or maybe some administration or some municipality wants to perform or organize a well-being experience, it's easy to find, you know, visitors and locals. And for me, this is very, very beautiful. Well, in fact, you know, sometimes I have to, you know, to to do a mindfulness session, you know, in Catalan and also in English or at the same time. So I think it's nice. So because of that, I would like to make, you know, that reference, the difference between wellness and well-being. Maybe that can lead to a discussion, and I'm sure it will be, because every author, you know, talks of that in a very different way. Here, you know, in Catalonia, in Spain, we talk of bienestar or bienestar, and we have only one single word. But in English, we have wellness and well-being. And for me, wellness, it has to do with that hedonistic way, you know, something more superficial in which we rest, we relax, you know. At least in here, we think of wellness as being in a spa, you know, just relax, you have your time to rest, and it's nice, it's okay, it's perfect, and we need that. But for me, I want to contrapose that to the term well-being, which go, you know, beyond, as Sílvia Aulet was explaining in the beginning, you know. Well-being, you know, refers to a more, you know, deeper dimension of human being. And for me, it has to do with eudaimonic term. You know, we have hedonistic in wellness and eudaimonic, you know, in well-being, because it has to do with, you know, more with the transformation of people. And I think that, you know, everybody leading a project, everybody leading a business, whatever, for me, it has a depth with society, and we have to, apart to, you know, to make it grow, to enjoy, and so we can live from that. We also have to think of how to make things that people enjoy. If we think that Ikigai, you know, diagram, we see that one part of the Ikigai, which means to find balance in our life and find our purpose, it also means to, there is a part talking about what the world needs. And it's very difficult to give the world something if we don't have it inside. So for me, talking of well-being, it means that we fulfill our life in order to give something. And that brings to this temple of Apollo in Delphi. Maybe one of the first sites in people were traveling. Well, I don't know, maybe not traveling, but maybe it was a kind of agency travel. Because when people wanted to go to war, to travel, to look for, you know, beyond horizons and find something, they used to go to Delphi and ask, you know, the oracle what to do. So I think that maybe that was a kind of agency. Well, you know, I'm just joking, of course. But in fact, here there is that, you know, that name, know thyself, which means that we really have to know ourselves in order to travel, in order to go somewhere else, if we want to make something, you know, special. Of course, when we talk of tourism, okay, you can have your travel to, I don't know, look for an hotel, stay the day, you know, in the swimming pool and forget about everything, and then you go to work when the vacation finished. But nothing changed, because in, I don't know, maybe in 15 days everything will come back to normal. Why? Because nothing changed. People look for vacations because they are stressed, they are tired. Maybe they can feel some pathology relating to technological, you know, lifestyle that we are living nowadays. So we are working 11 months. We have only 1 month to relax and feel balanced again. And maybe we can do that. But as soon as we come back to work, we start to feel the same, because nothing changed. So for me, this is why I always like to talk of well-being, because in our vacation, we have to look for something which really may help us to change. You know, in my experiences, I always try to show some tips, something in which when they come back to work, they know what to do in order to keep stress, you know, out of the way, in order to keep out that anxiety, whatever, something useful and something which will be very important in their life. From here we go also to another Hellenistic site, but this time we go to present time. This is the Archaeological Museum of Catalonia, in the Gulf of Roses in Costa Brava, very close from where I live, just 20 meters, just at the other side of the Gulf. And here we have the statue of Ascolappi. In fact, it's amazing because Ascolappi and Apollo, they were very close. There is not very much information about that, but Apollo was, you know, the guide of Iatromantis. How it is? There was a community called Iatromantis, which they followed Apollo. Pythagoras was one of them, and also Ascolappi. They were following, you know, a strict spiritual lifestyle, and maybe this statue is one of the most important Hellenistic elements of the Iberic Peninsula. It is amazing because when I was talking to the director of this site, we're talking about making some well-being activities. From here, that the sunrise is amazing, and we were talking about doing some experiences when nobody is in the museum, you know, using silence and everything to enjoy that site in a very different way. And she was telling me that, you know, you cannot go to, you cannot touch this statue. It is very close. You can see people, you know, having taking photograph, and this is what everything can do. But the director, she told me that some people, you know, jump and go to, they sit at the feet of Ascolappi, and they start to meditate. And in the beginning, she was, you know, throwing people out there. You cannot go, you cannot be here, please go away, you cannot. But then she realized that a lot of people were doing that, but she didn't know what to do. And I explained them, you know, that Ascolappi belongs to Iatromantis, now spiritual style. And a lot of people, you know, well, some people know that, and they want to meditate here just because it is said that it is in the same place where it was found. So of course, at least before, people didn't do things just because. They did everything for a reason, and the energy in that site is, they say, it is amazing. So people wanted to go to that place to meditate. And I told her, what you have to do is to open and make a place so people can go and put, I don't know, some wood, whatever, even some you know, cushions or something. People can meditate. People really will love that. And maybe it's a new tourist attraction, something which is, you know, very good for the well-being, and I think that will attract, you know, another kind of people. So sometimes we see, you know, a place, destination as one thing, but then we realize that there are something that we cannot see, and it's very useful to make things in a very different way. I talk that because I want to show this showcase study, the Ribeira Sacra, because of course it has to do with that. I'm collaborating with the UNED, the National University of Spain in Galicia, and I was performing some well-being, you know, course. There was the president of association at the Ribeira Sacra. He was attending a course, and he realized that what I was saying, that would be very nice to be in such place, because the place is amazing. I had heard of that, but I had never been there. So he took me, he showed me the place and said, it's amazing. You know, they have a lot of beautiful archaeological, historical sites. Well, what to say about Galician gastronomy and wines. a lot of forests, very incredible ancient trees, more than 500 years old. They have a lot of them. So we were talking to the tourism board from Ribeira Sacra, and they realized, you know, that kind of tourism would be very nice to develop in there. So I went there to make some courses to some business projects and people who wanted to learn, you know, that kind of tourism, and the reaction was very good. More than 25 people joined the course, and some, you know, business projects, you know, came from that experience. The beautiful thing was that Ribeira Sacra at that time, they applied to become, you know, World Heritage candidate. In fact, this year in July, I think they will know if they can be part of UNESCO Heritage or not. But I told them, why not to put well-being and nature, especially well-being, in that, you know, in the formula, you know, in the place. Why not to put well-being as one of the pillar of, you know, of the value of Ribeira Sacra? You know, every place has, you know, very nice temples, monasteries, you know, architectural, you know, constructions, gastronomy, and wines, everything. But why not to say that Ribeira Sacra is a special, great place so people feel better, so people can live better? Why not to put the attention to the people, not to the site? And not only the people from Ribeira Sacra, but also from the visitors to Ribeira Sacra. And they found that good idea. Here are some images of the course. Here down you see, you know, that big trees. It's about 700 years old. You see, well, it's amazing, and there are lots of trees like that. So they put that that pillar, the well-being, and I think this is important because they are selling. Well, in fact, they are telling the world that nature, that well-being is important, you know, for everybody, and for the legacy that we have to leave to our, you know, young generations. And dealing with that in that way, I realized that we need, you know, to feel more, you know. When you go to a site, I realize that, you know, people tell you, okay, this is from the blah, blah century, it was the king, the queen, the other, and they explain a lot of information about history and things. And you know, go out of the place with a lot of information that, in fact, most of times you forget. I was thinking, why not to feel a site? Why not to use that, you know, archaeological or historical, you know, heritage site in order that people learn to feel? And in the way they do that, they increase their well-being. We did the first, you know, experiment about that. It was in the Citadel of Roses, where I live. And it was amazing because it was an experience from the Costa Brava Tourism Board. And they came, you know, a group of journalists and writers and everything from the northern countries. And we had an experience about sound, about mindfulness, about feeling that place. And well, what I'm going to explain now is just an anecdote, but it was amazing because I don't know if you know Lola Kinmade. She's a photographer. She's doing a lot of projects for National Geographic. She's from Sweden, I think so. Yes, Sweden, and she's involved in a lot of, you know, travel photography projects, and you will easily see, you know, in social media and internet. And I was performing, you know, meditation experience, And it was amazing because when we finished, she came to me and said, I don't know, but I felt something strange in here. In fact, she told me, I could see how the soldiers of that place were living. In fact, I saw how they were dressing. How were they? And I said, oh, okay, well, that's funny because, you know, I'm not going to enter to that, but in fact, you know, there is a link between scientific and spiritual, you know, concepts in which everything is energy and information. And when you are meditating, you know, very deeply, you can have access to some of that information. The thing is that she told me, okay, I saw the soldiers in that place and they were dressing that way. And another one, she took the phone and started to look for information. The beautiful thing that, you know, she was like that. Lola, she said, it was like that. And Lola, yes, you know, they were dressing the same colors, you know, because she explained me before. And we could see, you know, the photo, well, not the photograph, of course, the drawing of a soldier, you know, wearing the same way that Lola told me. So it's just an anecdote, but it means that we can feel a place. We can, for instance, in the middle, we have that concert at the sunset, you know, in the Bay of Rosas, where the sun is setting after the Pyrenees. And I was performing a concert of sounds, which helps people to feel that moment in that citadel. And it's not a citadel, sorry, this is a castle in Rosas. So we were having a tea, a special tea for the occasion, special sounds, you know, and also here, also in the citadel, you know, yeah, in this time with the group, you know, mixing that way, you know, people from the citadel, they explain something, but then also we mix it with sensations. And it's very nice because in fact, you have your both, you know, brain hemispheres with the information they belong to. From, you know, brain, the left side, we have the information, historical, you know, everything. But from the other side, we have that feeling, the places, the colors, textures of the places, the stones, the colors. It's amazing. I think this is a very good experience. Another one, this was a concert in an astronomical site here in Albania, very close from here. Here I am with my instruments. There is also the astronomer, and we were mixing information, you know, something we could see, you know, live from the telescope you see at the end, and we could see live what the telescope was showing to the screen. So we were mixing information about the universe, also with, you know, the feelings of the sounds, as if they were, you know, in the middle of that. And the idea is that we are talking about, you know, heritage, about sight, about spirituality. And what I want to show is that it doesn't matter, you know, it's, you know, on the rocks, you know, seeing the sunrise, you know, on a boat, having a concert in the middle of the sea, such beautiful places. Of course, it's historical sites, whatever. When we are talking about spirituality, there is only one side which matters, which is inside. We have to connect with our surroundings, but in order to get inside, if not, nothing can be changed. When I think of tourism, I'm thinking, why not create destinations that help people to find themselves? To you know, why not create, you know, different temples of Apollo in every destination? So this way we can show people that they know themselves, that they understand themselves better. They can start, you know, to make changing, so they can live together, so they can live better. So at the end, you know, when tourism is helping to do that, in fact, what we are doing is creating destinations that, you know, that they can leave a legacy to our future generations. And it is to have places that help people to rediscover happiness. And for me, this is the idea about showing tourism, spirituality, well-being, a place, a destinations that show us to live better. And with tourism, we have a lot of opportunities. And well, that's all. Let me just back to the panel. And well, that's all. Thank you very much.
Edgar, thank you very much for sharing with us your interpretation of the concepts of well-being, wellness, what the power of nature can do to all of us, for tourists, people traveling in different destinations. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
And finally, last but not least, let me introduce you Dr. Laszlo, who is a prominent name in the arena of medical and wellness tourism, with more than 25 years in experience in this field of travel and health. He is engineer, strategist, mentor and trainer, and well-being intelligence expert. He is an economist and art and design manager and holds a master's degrees, a PhD, and is certified management consultant. Laszlo has been lecturing and running tailor-made trainings and masterclasses in over 40 countries, all around the world. He was one of the finalists in the Hall of Wellness Awards in 2020 as global personality influencing the wellness industry as well. He has been actively involved in both industry as well academic arenas and authored numerous industry reports, specialized books and publications. He was the project lead of one path-making report for the United Nations World Tourism Organization and ETC titled Exploring Health and Tourism. As well, he's in a pioneering study of Global Spa Summit titled Wellness Tourism and Medical Tourism. Where do spas fit? Laszlo is a hot spring and wellness enthusiast and holds a diploma in forest bathing as well. So Laszlo, whenever you're ready, please, it's over you.
Muchas gracias, Claudia. It's much appreciated, and really thank you, especially Edgar and the whole team, for the invitation. It's really touching, and it's really kind of you. You requested me to provide a little bit of overview of how thermalism is taking place in Hungary, and how is that related to well-being, either for citizens as a leisure activity or a healthcare activity, or to visitors. And I think I need to start, certainly I will show a little presentation for you. I just want to mention that it's very different. Whatever is thermalism in Hungary, it's very different from termales that you have in Spain or in Portugal, or even South or Central America. Since in Hungary we have facilities that are standalone facilities attracting a large number of guests, and at the same time we have closed facilities that are offering services and treatments for patients either in a hospital environment or a hotel environment. So the offer is rather varied, and you can see that the numbers are quite impressive. And also I would like to highlight a couple of critical issues in the end. When we look at what's available in Europe in terms of waters, and in terms of the temperature of those waters, this relatively old map, not the best quality map, but is known later one, unfortunately, indicates that geographically, Central Europe has amazing resources in terms of quantity as well as in terms of temperature. We know that many European countries, most European countries, would have some bathing-related establishments or bathing-related culture, tradition, but the very existence of the naturally hot springs, that certainly is abundant in Hungary or in the basin where we are living. And when we look at some locations of where springs are, and this is the map of Hungary, you can see the concentrated availability of those springs in the eastern part of the country and along the western border, in the border of Croatia, Austria, and Slovenia, but very much so in the very center part of the country. And also we need to mention Budapest later. I need to highlight, because it differs country by country, that hot springs in Hungary are those that are above 30 centigrade at source, naturally. If you go to Asia, that would be higher into the temperature. If you go to Central America, it may be lower, 28, or in Asia in 33. But in Hungary, that would be 30 degrees at source. You might assume that this is a thousand year of history and heritage. My answer would be yes and no, since the bathing culture as such, it was very much started very much during Roman times, or even sometimes the pre-Roman times. And as a stronghold, Buda, which is part of Budapest, the western part of the city, was a Roman fortress, and they already used the hot springs for the soldiers. Then we had a bit of a break, and the Turkish occupation, which took us 150 years, after during the 1500s and 1400s, and the 1600s, some of it, they really built baths, in the traditional Turkish baths, using the hot springs, because, as you know, in Turkey you can have two different ones, one with the hot spring in the middle, the other one without the hot spring, just the heated walls. So they used the existing sources, and Budapest became a major place for hot springs using the Turkish facilities. I want to indicate a couple of those images, and many of you may not have been around town, and I think that's a good introduction. That's the largest hot spring facility in Europe. It's called Széchenyi Thermal Bath and Medical Bath, and this is a rare image, at least in the last couple of years, because it became an Instagram sensation. Budapest was very popular among young visitors, and Széchenyi became the place to recover your hangover after a Friday night or a Saturday night, and this place is absolutely packed. So it is very, very popular. And the Budapest Bus Corporation also offered some parties here, which I will refer to a little bit later. So when we talk about historical facilities, we need to say historical after the Second World War. In most parts of the country, as in many Eastern European countries, they were looking for oil or gas, natural oil gas, but they didn't find much of that, but they found a lot of natural hot springs. So talk about the 1950s, except again Budapest with the Turkish facilities, Turkish origin. They all around the country, when they were drilling for oil or gas, they found hot springs. So most of those places and destinations, we're talking about 50, 60 years old only, if I may say that. But they certainly achieved a very central part of the supply of leisure activities, healthcare services, as well as tourism attractions. I will need to come back to the medical tourism part, because there's an interesting story here, and it's very relevant to Spain or to many other countries. Between 45 and 89, it was very much a domestic attraction and interregional, as in Polish, Romanian, Slovakian, and sometimes even Russian guests coming over to use the facilities. I will give you a highlighted example. The holiday vouchers, because before 89, companies were providing co-financed or fully financed holidays for their workers or the trade union members, and most of those trips actually took place to cities with hot springs. These facilities were very, I would say, basic or standard, but could accommodate a large number of workers and trade union members and their families. So it was very much like the rehabilitation, lifestyle support, a little bit prevention, as well as social policy and a little bit of healthcare policy. So all these facilities played quite an essential role in the leisure as well as healthcare services in Hungary. Talking about Turkish facilities, this is how the 2 or 3, actually at the moment 3 facilities look like. It's really dating back to the 1500s. These are original buildings, and the easternmost original Turkish bath in Europe, on continental Europe. Of course, you have in some of that in Spain, in Malaga, for example, but they are Moorish and not Turkish. Although the concept is similar, but this is built by the Turks. All right, after the 2000 onwards, especially after 2004, governments invested heavily in these hot spring destinations, as well as in cities, as well as in the facilities, and as well as in the hotels. Most of those developments, however, were focusing on infrastructural developments, as in pipes, structures, pools, and less so on the development of services. What Edgar, for example, was talking about the spiritual context of it, what you can find in natural hot spring in Central America or in Asia or South Korea or even China, Japan, when you do have a spiritual understanding of bathing. That's not the case in Hungary. In most of the cases, it's more about mass production and providing recreational, leisure, fun services and benefits to the guests. The spirituality is not a strong suit. And just mentioning that the first destination management organizations, as we understand it, kind of at a European level, they were managing the cities and destinations with hot springs because they were attracting the largest number of guests. So they had an impact on DMO development. And the social voucher system still exists, and still people who receive such vouchers, co-financing their trips, they still redeem it. Most of them redeem it at some hot spring destination, a hot spring city or a hotel, so that hasn't changed. A little bit of statistics, just for your entertainment. These are the number of natural hot springs, 279 of which would be mineral, and 278 would be healing. In Hungary, there is specific legislation, government decrees and law for what spring can be considered as a healing one. It would need to go through rigorous testing, clinical trials, clinical testing, hospital involvement, after which you can claim and you can register that given spring to have the healing status. You can't just call it that way. It's a very elemental part of the protocols of the healthcare system to have those springs properly checked, tested, and the healing benefits to be also tested. We have healing mud sources, which are often related to the hot springs. And also, you might find it relevant that we have, Hungary has healing caves, which are, again, government declared healing caves. And we also, there are 2 mofetas, or carbon dioxide healing baths. So in terms of facilities, in terms of resources, that's quite an extensive array of resources we can really build on. I want to give you the historic component of the hot springs. I mentioned that most of those are after the 50s, but there are a couple of facilities that we call historic bathing facilities, and that would be one is the Gallet, which is an Art Deco building, and it's built 120 years ago or so. It's in Budapest, and it's again one of the major tourist attractions. And also need to highlight the issue that these facilities often looked at as, well, how should I put it, Instagrammable attractions, are less so as facilities contributing to one's well-being in many different ways. But this is just guessed. So that's another whole of the very same facility. In terms of Turkish, that's one of the largest Turkish facilities, with the hot spring pool in the very middle. And the new extension had a hot tub built on the roof, and then you can overlook the river, which is a rather exclusive experience. And this is how it looks like when it's dark, and the traditional Turkish roof with the colored little pigeonholes. I need to mention one which is sadly never ever been open in the last, 15 years? No, sorry, 10 years. One of the, I would say, most beautiful facilities is Nerat's thermal baths, which had been closed for 20 odd years now and is being renovated. And this how it may look like when it finally open its doors, but because of the ownership claims and various other issues, this absolutely stunning facility, although it's been renovated and was ready, never opened its doors. But we are very much anticipating as soon as it does, it will give Budapest a very special position in terms of attractions in Budapest, as well as adding something to the citizens' lifestyle. Because if you look at, this is all in the same building, just a different corner of it, it's absolutely stunning. It would have Roman, it would have Turkish, and it would have a contemporary unit, and that would be the Turkish part. I've been to it several times, although it's never been open, but because of professional reasons, I was lucky to visit the place, and honestly, I assure you that it's absolutely stunning. In terms of infrastructure, you have seen the map of what resources we have. Hungary has healing destinations and cities. That, again, it's a government framework. Destination would need to apply and need to comply with strict regulations how a destination may have a healing destination status, which would have special qualities in terms of city management, in terms of what kind of funds it can apply to, it's kind of what city management rules it needs to apply to its operations. There are thermal baths, there are over 500, and it is anticipated that roughly less than half would have any kind of tourism value. The rest would be more for leisure. And that's capital M is missing there, sorry about that. We talk about 30 plus million guests a year to those facilities. So that's a major industry in this country, both leisure as well as healthcare, because of the government's involvement in treatment financing, and also as a tourist attraction. I don't want to bore you with a large number of statistical data, but you can see that there is an extensive supply. We have, there are 10 hospitals that are specialized in balnear therapy, which I understand most of you know what that is, a balnea, as not thermales, which is in Roman language, that would be more for a recreation leisure facilities. The balnea would be those that are very much on the healing side and the medical side. And this is, there are hospitals which are specialized in balnear therapy treatments. I need to mention the difference between a medical hotel and wellness hotel. In Hungary, there is government decree for medical hotels, same as for medical hot springs. As for medical hotels, not anyone can apply for it. You have specific regulations for that. And most of the time, 95% of the time, such hotels would have direct link to medical thermal facilities, or they would have their own unit in-house. In terms of wellness, since many of the wellness hotels are located at thermal destinations, not medical, but thermal destinations, Wellness hotels do not have a government decree. The Hotel Association of Hungary has a recommendation and expected level of services under the Hotel Stars Union system, what services and facilities a wellness hotel would need to have. So we need to separate the two, but in this country, most of the facilities, the wellness hotels would have some hot spring in it or right next to it. I want to briefly mention Ensana, which is a chain of hotels. It's been rebranded last year, and this is the only hotel brand in Europe that specialized on hot springs, and it has it started in Hungary, but now it has units in Slovakia, in Czech Republic, and also in Romania. And they're managing in every facility. They have hot springs, and they're mainly medical, balneotherapeutic, as well as with some wellness on the side, but very much started with the healing aspect. May I mention this map, which thank you Thermal Hungary for creating it, and you can see the variation of facilities like historical, hotel and indoor, contemporary, that would be outdoor, cave one, because there's a cave bath. I will show you a picture of it, and also the swimming pool. So literally anywhere you go in the country, you would find some sort of hot spring. May or may not have medical components, but most of them would have some leisure, recreation, indoor, outdoor pools. Not in the same way as in Germany with the large wet spaces in wet areas, as in saunas and steam rooms. That's only a couple of them would have such extensive facilities. But in terms of just bathing, literally you can go anywhere in the country, you can find it. And most of those places and most of the facilities are affordable. So local people can also have access to it as a lifestyle. But for example, in Budapest, the Budapest Sports Corporation had to create a special card, which is available only for citizens of Budapest, because the price inequality between guests and local guests, tourists and foreign tourists and local guests, the prices became so expensive that locals couldn't really afford it on a regular basis. So there was a special incentive for locals to claim that card. Right, Cinetroop, which is now, I just want to show you one of the oldest photos in one of the facilities. It started good 10 plus years ago. That is specifically for young people. Sun and lumiere, sights, projections, music, fun, experience, all the rest of it. So it's not the traditional way of using the thermal facilities, and this is now moved to another facility, and it's called Sparty. 95% of the guests would be foreign tourists who come, most of them specifically for that. And this is about the new one in the Széchenyi. It's just the beginning of it. Last year, David Guetta was giving a party in this place, and that's giving an idea how they would like to be contemporary. All right, some state support infos, I need to mention that. The National Health Insurance provides co-financing or fully financing for 10 various treatments at medical spas, medical thermal facilities, the weight bath, the certain massages, exercises, underwater pressure massage. This would need to be prescribed by a specialist, balneotherapist. You can't just knock on the door and say, I would like to have an underwater pressure massage. You need to be approved by the balneotherapist, and you would need to have this really specifically prescribed. And to most people, this is no co-funding needed. The state, the National Health Insurance provides the funds for that. So that's really is contributing to preservation of health preservation. Another example, which is in the eastern part of the country, is a natural cave with natural water in it, which has been extended and expanded. And it's one of a kind experience because you really are swimming in a cave with moderately warm spring. This is not medical, certainly it's just thermal. I want to give you a short case study of Hades, which is the only natural medical lake in the world in Europe, apart from New Zealand. There is the other one, except that is 90 something Celsius. This is only 36, 38, depending. So you can bathe in here, and it's traditionally been a medical destination, medical facility, which is, by not surprise, I believe, became a tourist attraction just because of the very nature of it. In the giving some examples, this is the weight bath therapy was created here, and you can use that all year round. It's a natural lake with water lilies, and there is animals, and that really is a very special experience, even if just for a short bathing session. And there's a history there for the 200 years old traditional Hades cure. There's a methodology with the water and the various treatments, providing that mainly orthopedic rehabilitation activities and treatments in the place. No surprise, I believe, because of the age group either, that this 70% of the guests would be regular guests, who returning guests, and the health fund provides the funds for the treatments, at least some of it, and they can use the holiday vouchers and they can take in the daily soaking as well as the various treatments related. Still, we have young people as well who come and just enjoy the sights because it's really one of a kind place. It has over 1 million guest nights a year, although the city is only just a couple of thousand, 4,000 or 5,000 people live there. So you can imagine the load of guests to hear that the whole city is living from this activity, obviously. And this is the most visited city after Budapest in Hungary. We did a study a couple of years ago of the 1.1 million guest nights in terms of economic impact. The economic multiplier is 1.89, which is rather high. So every, let's say, euro cent that is being spent here can create a 1.89 cent totally because of the complex service provision at the place. And also it has directly, when the study was done, 2,450 or 2,500 employment created just the services based on hot springs. So obviously not just locally, but in all over the country. I want to give you another example as wrapping up, and this is the study that we did for Budapest Spas as a consumer survey, and this is what refers back to Edgar's or Josep's discussion about lifestyle and contribution of bathing to lifestyle. We wanted to understand what really drives customers and why they come here, and what it makes, what the kind of impacts it does to them. I don't have the time at the moment to give you the full study, but you can go on our website and you can download it right away, the full assessment, if you're looking for what it does to guests, and some other statements. And we wanted to understand in terms of the role of visiting a thermal facility in the totality of visitation to Budapest, and in terms of looking for other thermal facilities anywhere else, because most of the guests, foreign guests, have probably never been to a hot spring facility, so we wanted to have the know more about the associations. And just a short indication that not surprisingly, and this is a task for Budapest Spas Corporation, and that's what we did. And that's why we did this study for them, to understand that people come here because of the architecture, but don't necessarily know what it does to them. And of course, one, soaking doesn't really do extensive impacts, but we know that they still have a short-term impact on well-being. And just a short summary that every facility would have a different kind of identity. And that's a very important issue here, to associate what it does to you in terms of the social context. It is relaxing. Other one is more for relaxation. The third one is more for health orientation. So I think it's important for every facility to understand how guests look at them. And for example, research in general, that's just good for your life, the quality of life. Some take-home messages, and this is coming from the study that we did for the Wellness Tourism Association. And please make a notice that self-healing post-COVID is something that the industry believes that is going to be very important. And this is when the spirituality, the bathing, the nature access, the hot springs could have a major role in terms of self-healing, and that's what people are looking for, not just indulgence and not just a recharge, but also self-healing. Again, this study is also available on our web. And when you look at the very same study in terms of forecast for Central and Eastern Europe, in every aspect here, in terms of facilities, in terms of services, you can see that hot springs may play a role in this, in terms of rituals, in terms of medical wellness, because bathing is a ritual, and rehabilitation has its necessary medical components. Therapy is based on natural resources. So all of these, so anything to do with hot springs, and I believe it's not unrelated to what you may have in Spain as well, or beyond, because we have participants from Poland as well. This is what I believe is really important, and you can see in our study that, let's say, Southern Europe also is featured in terms of natural resources. I wanted to close with this. I hope you recognize the gentleman who is drawing in his bathtub. And for example, that's what we are working with students right now, who we're going to present in half an hour. What exactly we can do to use the bathing as dopamine increasing, relaxing, creative, as well as restorative experience, and how we can rejuvenate it. So it's not just medical purposes for old people, but we have there is a role for hot springs in everybody's life. And this is where you can find all the information in our website, the htww.life. You can find all the studies and various other intelligence without any charge, so don't worry about it. All you need to do is register. I would like to thank you for your very kind attention and the invitation to Girona. That's most appreciated, and thank you for the participants as well. And I believe there are some questions, but I haven't yet read it, but of course, Professor Ivanovic is certainly the person who anybody needs to talk to when you are creating such integrative experiences. Edgar as well, I call your attention to talk to speak to Milena. She's wonderful, so speak to her on that. So thank you. Muchas gracias.
So Dr. Laszlo, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us, for sharing this case of study of Hungary. Thank you so much, very interesting. So now let me welcome again all the attendees. So now it's the question and answer turn. So whatever you want to know or find out, you can just drop your question on the question and answers. So far we have Amber, addressed to Mr. Luis. She asks if there are any active ways of social media showcasing the experience of the pilgrims in order to promote numbers and show the different ways pilgrims connect to their journey, spiritual, secular, and other. I think you need to switch on your micro, Luis.
Sorry. Well, it seemed that after so many months working with the Zoom, it will be already, but no. Okay, let me share again this presentation I was given. Oh yes, so the point is spread the word as much as we can. So if you want to find the Ignatian Way there is a group, they call themselves the official group, the Friends of the Ignatian Community in Facebook. So you can go in and find all the information and the experiences that they live. So it's a great source to share, mostly in English, but there are other pilgrims that they share in Slave and Polish and other languages. So it's you can do that. And then the web page of the Ignatian Way, the official web page of the Ignatian Way. Here you can find as well a way to interact with other pilgrims, because you can comment on the steps as you are doing that, or find the experiences of former pilgrims. So just go there and you will read the experiences that they had, and in the past. It's a pretty good way to spread the word and to know how it works.
Thank you very much, Liz. And now we have one interesting questions actually, which Laszlo has already written the answer. But I'd like to drop this question to all of the panelists we have in here. It's interesting because it has led to start an interesting debate between the attendees. So I would also like to invite Thomas, Leah, Professor Milana Ivanovic to share all their opinions about this. The question actually was, isn't well-being an integral part of the essence of pilgrimage? Spiritual experiences are intensively linked to a sense of blessed peace, well-being, and thus pure contact with the sacred. What do you think? So, Laszlo said, any activity may have an impact on well-being. Pilgrims may consider the spiritual and the psychological aspects more relevant, but one might not need to be religious to experience the spiritual aspects. This concrete question and answer started an interesting debate, as I said. So you are all welcome to share what do you think about this. If you want, you can switch on your cameras now. You can switch off, also you can switch on your micros as well. No one?
Well, I will start, if nobody's saying. I would say that for sure that pilgrimage or pilgrimage and well-being are connected. And in fact, I would say that and I think that Josep Lluís mentioned already this, the first thing when you go on a pilgrimage is to have the need or to feel the call to go and start this pilgrimage. And this is because you feel that you need something and you're looking for this spiritual quest, for example, or this well-being somehow. So they are connected for sure. And we are seeing that we were seeing data, for example, from the increasing number of pilgrimage and people enrolling in pilgrimage that are an answer to this. During this pandemic, we were analyzing the numbers of people also moving and arriving to pilgrimage sites. And one of the things that we saw is that when you have an opening, let's say, or you are allowed to move, many people were willing to move to these sites as well.
Thank you, Sylvia, for sharing.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to answer to have the answer for this question, or maybe not question, but a bit of commentary, because I gave an example, for example, from Scandinavia, where along the way of St. Olaf's, the people wandering along this road, they are feeling much more like well-being tourists or pilgrims than pilgrims. They feel that their well-being along this way it is the way of thinking about the pilgrimage, about this connection to the world, surrounding world, to the nature. And the most difficult way, it means for them the much more feeling of the sense of the pilgrimage and the sacred of the place. And that is a good example of the connecting with the well-being and the pilgrimage and this sense of spirituality of the place, of the region, of the route. Yeah, it's just like this one, like a small commentary.
Yes. I agree totally with you. My experience, I usually take groups of pilgrims just on the Ignatian Way and walk along the 700 kilometers of the way, and it's true. So the more they find that there is a kind of difficulty to overcome, the better for them. So it's not just a nice walk, nice time passed, but to feel the grail, to feel the storm, to feel the heat, to feel the distance. So that's body experience. And the body experience comes with an inner experience, healing experience, and sometimes because you feel that you are bigger than you thought that you were, and then it's mind, heart, and body go together. So that's something I guess in all the pilgrimages, when you go inside of the experience, deeply inside of the experience, you get that reward.
Yes,
that's right.
And in fact, when we are talking of well-being, yeah, you know, when we go, you know, on holidays, you think of, okay, I want, you know, a good time, I want to rest and everything. But as I was saying before, maybe it doesn't, you know, lead to go beyond. And we also think of well-being, you know, maybe of just very, you know, in a narrow way, just at that time. And we are not thinking about the process of our life. So I've never been engaged in any pilgrimage, but I see that just a very deep experience. You know, a long experience can take some days, even months. I don't know, and maybe you're, you know, as Josep Lluís was saying, that you're feeling, you know, tired. Your feet, you know, they are feeling, you know, with terrible pain. You maybe have something in your back, you know, maybe you are even, you know, suffering depending on the part of the journey. But that's something that it made you strong. That's something that helped you, in fact, to live better. Because when I was talking of happiness, it doesn't mean, you know, that you are all the day walking, you know, singing and feeling nice. No. From happiness, you know, understood in a deeper way, we must see our life as a long period, and we have to perform in a way that this period we are going, you know, feeling better all the time, although sometimes it means that the suffering at the present moment. So for me, well-being goes beyond that specific time and start to make your life better. Although sometimes it means, you know, of course, suffering. Why not?
I completely agree with. Sorry.
Yeah, just I'd like to. I don't mean to interrupt, but Mr. Laszlo needs to leave us. So just appreciate very much your time sharing with us your interesting presentations. Thank you very much once again, and hope to see you and hear from you soon.
Yeah, we make sure we will do it again. And thanks to everyone and organizers and participants as well, especially a couple of familiar faces, Leah, Claudia, and it's happy to see you there. And through this lovely thing, and all the others, I hope we can meet again. But, you know, my students are waiting and it's the end of the term, so I have to go. So thanks again, muchas gracias, and I'm sure we will talk again.
Thanks again, Laszlo, for taking part and being with us today. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye.
Leah, please, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So Hungary has remained still representative here. We have been working quite a lot with Laszlo together at the same university, Budapest Metropolitan University. And what I wanted to say that I have marked also in the message or chat section that I agree with Edgar that wellness is sort of and can be, without any discussion, a sort of spiritual state. But to being well, there are quite a lot of other features that contribute. And mainly during tourism, this is experience. And this experience can be very complex in the sense that it can be a built heritage, the natural heritage, as you were talking about, walking among mountains, about a beautiful area. And it's not only its spiritual effect, but its physical effect on people. Imagine that there are quite a lot of people living in big cities. And if they go, it's a personal experience too, that if I go out to the forest, to mountains, to seashore, to sea water, it gives a really physical experience for me and contributes to my well-being. So beside the spiritual, it is very difficult to identify to what extent it is spiritual and from which point it is physical. But it gives me a physical well-being to be at a seaside, to swim in the ocean, for instance, for me from the middle of Europe, or to be among mountains. So therefore, I said that well-being is a very complex thing. Even if I go into a city and I see monuments or see a very specific object, very specific statue or piece of art, a painting in a museum, that also contributes to my well-being and happiness, let's say. Thank you.
Definitely, Leah, I totally agree with you. For me, there's a direct relationship between learning new things, learning about the history, learning about the culture, learning about the traditions of one place, with the creation of the new mental structures that, of course, will lead to a general well-being of the individual. I totally agree with you in this aspect. And also, Professor Milena did one comment on the chat, which I found actually very, very interesting. I don't know, Professor Milena, if you want to share with us what you think about the concept of well-being.
Yes, good afternoon, and regards to everybody. Is it afternoon? Yes, it is. My passion is cultural tourism and heritage tourism. What I want to share with you now in this line of thought about spirituality and well-being, we did research in our most famous, biggest township in South Africa, Soweto. And you know that we have Mandela's house there and Soweto uprising, and that is how the world has become aware of apartheid and all this. So Soweto has a huge symbolic value, heritage and historical, and however you want to put it, and spiritual. To many people who were part of this struggle, Soweto and Constitution Hill in Johannesburg, where is Constitutional Court, we were surprised to find that there are spiritually connected to those places. It's not only, you know, like a memory or history or whatever. So that is one also aspect of spirituality and well-being, and they want to connect to their history, their you know, they had maybe some losses in their families participated, or they are young, they heard about that. That is one thing. The other thing is our Big Five, Big Seven African experience. You know, there are so many types of accommodation in South African Kruger Park, for example, where you actually sleep in the open under the stars with your guide. And that is how you connect with the nature, and that is profound spiritual experience. And that is something what we know. But what is recent development is transformational or transformative tourism or experience. And we did research in Soweto on international visitors. Of course, this was before Corona. We published the results last year and this year. There are 2 articles on transformative tourism. And what we found is actually, surprisingly, people, they hold values, certain values about the world. For example, recycling, not polluting, and so forth, are values. Consumerism, what you buy, what you don't buy, and so forth. But that is now, so our set of, how to say, all set of our world views and beliefs is now transformed into what we want to experience in as part of tourism in terms of our spiritual growth, in terms of our transformation, personal transformation in finding who are we as people. So we live in foreign destinations. In Soweto, we found many people, foreign tourists, who seek to live as locals live. They don't want to live outside Soweto. They want to experience this authentic lifestyle, which will fit with their worldviews, which will further transform them, help them transform. So this is a sort of co-creation of experiences. It's not that one side is observed and is giving out the experience. This is interactive experience which actually helps one to be true to oneself. Let's put it that way. And it is an amazing, actually, route tourism and tourist experience is going now, combining spirituality and well-being and all these different experiences into one, which is to do who I am in this world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Milena. Very interesting reflection. So I don't know if anyone wants to add anything else. So in case not, I will give the word to Sílvia Aulet, so we can farewell.
Okay, so thank you, Claudia, and thank you all the speakers again for joining us and for such a wonderful discussion and reflection. And thank you also to all the people that has joined us online. I see very good friends on the floor as well, so thank you for joining. I would just end saying that I think that to conclude or to sum up, I would say that we could consider 3 dimensions of this idea of tourism, heritage, and well-being. One should be the inner dimension. All the 3 speakers were referring to this transformation of people, to this spirituality, so this would be one. But I think that another dimension is this external dimension, or this dimension with others, because we are referring to tourism, people traveling to different places, so meeting other people. Laszlo referred to locals and the importance also of accessing these spas and sites. So this dimension of connecting people, not only us, but us with the others. Josep Lluís mentioned also in his presentation, the fact of meeting other pilgrims and this idea of feeling all together. And I would say that the other 3rd dimension is nature. So this connection with nature, with the environment. So I think that tourism in the future should focus on these 3 dimensions and should keep working on this. And tourism has this power of transformation that I think that we should push and explore more on this dimension. And I would end thanking the campus again and reminding that the next session of the campus will be dedicated to intangible heritage and local development. And this one will be held on the 17th of June at 11:30. And in this case, the session will be conducted in Catalan, but if you are interested, we will find more information and the campus will send more information. So thank you again to all for joining us.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for these inspiring presentations again. Have a good day.